Welcome to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast, where we aim to help fellow veterinary rehab therapists increase their knowledge and elevate their practice. I'm Megan Kelly.
And I'm Anae Lloyd. Together, we bring you the latest insights, research, and information in the field of veterinary rehabilitation.
This podcast is brought to you by Onlinepethealth, a leading continuing education membership for veterinary rehabilitation therapists. With Onlinepethealth, you'll have access to a wide range of online resources to help you stay up to date with the latest techniques, advances, and trends in the industry.
Our podcast features in-depth conversations with leading experts in veterinary rehabilitation. They share their own experiences and knowledge to help you improve your practice. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the field, our goal is to provide you with the tools and the insights you need to succeed.
So join us as we explore the exciting world of veterinary rehabilitation and help you take your practice to the next level. Hey vet rehabbers, today on the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast, we're diving into another insightful Behind the Vet Rehab Practice podcast. Joining us is Jaclyn M.Coble from Sea Legs Integrated Veterinary Health in Massachusetts, United States. In our conversation, Jaclyn opens up about her initial fears and challenges in starting her own practice, particularly regarding obtaining loans and setting up the business. She says how over time she has grown more confident and comfortable with the process. She also provides valuable advice for those who are just starting out in the field of veterinary rehabilitation based on her own experiences and the lessons that she learned along the way. Now, the website for our annual online veterinary rehabilitation conference, the Vet Rehab Summit, is now live. So early bird tickets are available to purchase. This year, our theme revolves around ethical dilemmas in veterinary rehabilitation practice. We aim to help you establish your own ethical boundaries that you can confidently uphold. Now, in our profession, we often face challenging situations where we must prioritize the welfare of our patients over the request of their owners. How do we navigate these complex scenarios? Join us as we delve into this topic, and you can find out more at the Vet Rehab Summit, and the website is vetrehabsummit.com. A quick word from our sponsors before we chat to Jaclyn. Our sponsor is Curacao Vet. It's owned by Nada Robinson. She is an integral part of our community. She's so supportive, always keen and happy to sponsor education and learning for our vet rehab community. She first developed her courses at the Colorado State University, where she started the Medical Acupuncture for Veterinarian Certificate program in 1998. And in so doing, she developed a science-based platform for veterinary acupuncture, which was the first of its kind. So today, Curacao Vet offers a comprehensive curriculum in integrative medicine with a rational, evidence-supported foundation. And they have courses such as medical acupuncture, photomedicine, botanical medicine, medical massage, and integrative rehabilitation. You can discover Curacao Vet at curacao.org. Right, over to my chat with Jaclyn. Hey Jaclyn, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you.
Jaclyn, for the listeners, won't you tell them about yourself and how you got into the field of vet rehab?
Yes, so my name is Jaclyn M.Coble. I own Sea Legs Integrative Veterinary Health in Boston, Massachusetts. We opened the brick and mortar practice in March of 2023. Before that, I was doing some mobile work while I also did per diem ER. I graduated from veterinary school in 2012 and worked as an emergency doctor up until 2021. And then I kind of cut back to per diem work with the birth of my second child, and then was trying to look for a new way to practice veterinary medicine that wasn't emergency medicine anymore. I was getting really burnt out. And having had acupuncture for myself, I became really drawn to that for animals. And also just having gone through physical therapy for myself. So I kind of started exploring those fields, and then eventually took the University of Tennessee certification to be a CCRP, and then did the Chi University course for acupuncture. And then I was kind of trying to decide how I would use those credentials and how I would practice, and ultimately decided to open a pain management, rehabilitation, acupuncture, and palliative care clinic in Boston. Kind of the first of its kind, at least in Boston. I know there's lots of them existing all over the world now, which is great.
So tell me about the name. So is there something behind the sea legs?
Yes, yes, yes. That's like one of my favorite things to talk about. So Sea Legs is the name of my childhood dog. When I was born, my parents had Sea Legs who went by Siggy. And when I was trying to come up with a name for the practice, Boston is on the water. Our practice isn't specifically, but I've always been really drawn to the ocean and love the water. So I wanted to incorporate the name somehow. So I came up with like title veterinary clinic, but that actually was already being used by another vet in my area, and a few other ideas, and then ultimately settled on Sea Legs as a homage to the real Sea Legs who passed away in 1990, and then also just a way to incorporate the sea. And kind of the idea is that like when pets come to see me, like especially elderly geriatric dogs, I help them get their sea legs and get back on their feet.
I love that. Absolutely love that. And so nice that you could bring in your childhood dog into it. So that's such an awesome story.
Yeah, I know. I think it really like my parents really like it too that we're still representing her.
Yeah, it's great. So tell me about the practice. So you opened up your brick and mortar practice a
Mhm.
year ago. So tell me, like, what is the setup now? Are you in a rented space, or did you buy a space? And just tell me how many people are working for you and how many consult rooms. Just a little bit about the setup.
Got it. So I rent a space in Boston. We're in a little plaza that has a big grocery store and then some other small businesses. Um, Before I rented the space, it had been a human urgent care. So it already was set up as a medical practice. So I just had to do a little bit of changing for my fit out. So I have three exam rooms. Radiology was already equipped. There was already a leaded room and everything. So I was able to easily bring in radiology. Then I converted some of the other exam rooms. It was a 12 room space, but I converted one room to the wards, another room to utilities. And then we ended up knocking out one room and the former lab to make space for our underwater treadmill. So I have a Oasis Pro saltwater underwater treadmill that we've been really happy with. And then in the different exam rooms, we've got one is kind of my initial consult room that has a stance analyzer. And then the next room is the laser acupuncture room. And then the third room was built as a comfort room. It's actually got a really beautiful mural on the wall, but luckily we haven't had to use it much for that. And it's actually our shockwave room mostly right now.
It's so great that you had a space that was used by medical professionals already that you could use. I mean, most people don't get that, right? You have to like start from scratch completely.
Yeah, I really hit the jackpot when looking for the space. I looked with my realtor at, probably a dozen other spaces before we settled on this one. But as soon as I walked in, I was like, oh, I want this space.
Yeah, you must have been so excited. You're like, this is
Yeah.
gonna work.
Yeah. And I had heard from other people in the industry about another vet practice that had similarly moved into a former urgent care and how easy it was to do their fit out. So as soon as I realized that's what this space was, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be the best solution.
Yeah. And did you ever consider purchasing, or were you always gonna rent from the beginning?
So I'm in Boston, Massachusetts, where the property is very, very expensive right now. So hopefully someday I'll be in the position to buy, but it's pretty hard to come by in this area unless you already purchased your spaces, 20 to 30 years ago. Most spaces are rented.
So your initial financial outlay was obviously to get the premises ready for you.
Mhm.
And did you have to take loans to buy the underwater treadmill and all the other equipment?
Yes, I ended up working with Bank of America for their practice solution loan.
Okay. And how did you feel about that? Were you quite nervous about getting a huge loan out? I know for a lot of people, everyone does it differently. Sometimes people will just start out with nothing and then save and purchase one thing after another.
Mhm.
But if you're going into a big practice like yours, you have to be able to generate income, and so those machines obviously help to generate that income.
Yeah, it was definitely stressful and rocky going into it just because, coming in with that level of debt is stressful. But, as each month passes, we start to get a little more brand recognition and get our name out there more and get more word of mouth. So each month I've gotten slightly more comfortable with it. But I definitely was really nervous, in taking a really big leap in branching out and taking on that debt. It's nice that, I had some really good friends and advisors that were like, well, what's the worst that could possibly happen? Like that, I don't, it doesn't work out and I have to file for bankruptcy. And they were like, yeah, and then you can just go back to being an ER vet. It's fine. Like, well,
Yeah.
I mean, when you say it that way, it sounds fine, but it took me a little while to really get in the headspace where I was ready to do it.
Yeah, listen, I think it's completely normal to have those feelings when
Mhm.
I mean, it's the same when you buy a house or a car or anything, when
Yeah.
you're thinking, oh my gosh, what if I can't pay for this?
And signing
Um,
those papers with all those giant numbers you've never seen in your
yeah.
life. And
So, tell me about how the practice is going now. So you're the only vet that is
Mhm.
practicing there. Are you sort of what percentage capacity are you running at the moment?
We're probably still running at about 30%. It just was a little bit like I know a lot of the referring vet community being a former ER doctor. It's just been a lot of marketing in the area of letting people in Boston know that we're here and that their pets do need us and that we can help improve their quality of life. So we get a lot of post-op referrals, but as far as getting the older geriatric dog referrals, that's been kind of the big battle for me. So I've been working with, I actually in January hired a public relations company to help get my name out there a little bit more because kind of the local outreach with primary vets in the area was helping, but not as fast as I wanted it to. And so far, that's been a lucrative partnership, and it's kind of helped gain more brand recognition and just help people realize what I am in the area, that I am a veterinarian, that I'm also here for pain management and acupuncture of some more internal medicine conditions, but then also for your post-op rehab cases, for your palliative care cases, and being a former ER doctor, I'll also see some urgent care.
So, I mean, are there other vet rehab practices that are in your area? Because it sounds like, you're having to do a lot of pet owner education.
Yeah, so there were um, so in Boston proper, the city, there was one other rehab specific practice, and then there were a few acupuncturists in the area. The other rehab in Boston proper ended up closing, as did one that was just outside the city that was owned by MSPCA Angel, which I think was kind of a decision more of higher ups within the company that, the rehab space was not as profitable as, putting in two surgery suites. So I did get a lot of business from those closures, which is great, but those are mostly still post-op and injury dogs. And I'm doing a lot of owner education on the geriatric pain management cases. And now that a lot of vets in the area are learning more about us and that we're here, we are starting to see a lot more referrals for that.
Yeah, it does take a bit of time to get that traction and build it
Mhm.
up. So you were mobile for a little while before. Did you have quite a big client base that you could pull into the brick and mortar?
Not a huge one because it was I was lugging my giant companion animal duo laser around the city, parked 5 blocks away from where I was going. So I did bring about 5 patients in with me, but it was a pretty small undertaking at the time, and most of my income at that time was from doing per diem ER.
Okay, okay. So what other marketing strategies have you used that you've found to be
Mhm.
effective?
So I've been doing a lot of social media outreach, which I feel like tends to bring more just engagement with your regular clients than necessarily bringing new people in. I've done some targeted Google ads. Those I find are hit or miss. Sometimes I'll get, a good group of leads from that. Other times I'll get a lot of phone calls of people where it seems like almost random, like it's a person in Florida and I showed up while they were looking for just a general practice vet. And then I do a lot of visits to primary vets and just try to bring some materials for them just to show that I'm there, meet with the vets if they're available. And then I'm doing some little kind of continuing education talks at a couple of the bigger referral practices on things like laser therapy or shockwave, just to give them an idea of how I can help their patients outside of just your standard. Everyone thinks of rehab and the underwater tread, but there's so much more, as you know.
Yeah, nice. So, in the setup of your practice, was there anything that you did which you would like wish you could go back and change? So I'm thinking more like about knocking out walls and how you set it up.
I really do like the way my practice is set up overall. I've definitely sometimes wondered how much we needed the underwater tread as I've gotten more into rehab. I feel like when you first start and anyone first thinks of rehab, that's the first thing they think of. But of course, there's so much more physiotherapy that you're doing outside of any hydrotherapy. I like having it here, and I think it's a great draw for the practice. But sometimes I'm like, does this really need to be here? I feel like I spend a lot more time working on this than like keeping the tread in shape than I necessarily do making money from it. But hopefully, as more time goes on, we'll get more weight loss clients and things like that where it's great for.
Yeah, it's definitely a jaw card, the underwater treadmill.
Hmm.
And I do think a lot for some of those vets that refer, it's something different that they can't do.
Hmm.
So they tend to refer for that, and then you get to treat them and do the other things too. So I
Hmm.
think back when I had my practice, it was like I mean, that was like, yeah, like 14 years ago. So it was more, 15 years ago. It was quite novel, right?
Hmm.
Have an underwater treadmill then, but it definitely was a draw card for the clients as well as the vets. So,
Hmm.
and they usually do pay for themselves, like and more. So
Hmm.
you just got to build up that clientele. So it will come.
Yeah, definitely. And the maintenance on it, once I kind of had it all figured out, it was easy, but just those first few months where I'm like, why did I buy this $50,000 piece of equipment? I have no idea what I'm doing. But now I feel like I've got the hang of it, and I'm like also a pool maintenance person in addition to a veterinarian and a rehab therapist.
It's a big learning curve, especially if you
Mhm.
haven't owned your own pool and like done any water management at all.
Yeah, never in my
Yeah,
life have I ever
yeah,
like done anything in a pool other than like go in a friend's.
yeah, exactly. It's all the measuring of the pH and the stability and all of that. Yeah, it's definitely a big learning curve.
Yeah, you're like back to high school chemistry all of a sudden.
Let's chat about how you schedule your consult hours. And, I know in the beginning when you're just the only vet that's working, I know that
Hmm.
you've got some other support staff,
Hmm.
but it can be a little bit all consuming because, you're the one who often they want to be seeing. So how do
Hmm.
you schedule your consult hours? How many days a week? And what are the hours that you are consulting each day?
Right now, we are doing Monday through Friday. We do Monday through Wednesday, 8 to 6 are the hours the practice is open. And then Thursday, 9 to 7, and Friday, 9 to 4. I can get in for 9 o'clock appointments if I have to, but I try to not schedule anything for myself until 10. We'll have like the rehab patients come in that my technicians are working on come in sometimes at 9, but I'm usually getting kids off to school in the morning. So that's why my day tends to start a little bit later. And then once I'm here, if anybody wants to come in, I'm at the phase where, yeah, if anybody wants to come in and see a veterinarian, we'll figure out a way to put them on the schedule. In the future, I think we'd probably try to aim for something like, two new consults in the morning, kind of rechecks grouped around that, but kind of keep all the new consults in the morning so we have the day to do the workup. But if somebody comes, like right now, if somebody wants to come in at 5 o'clock because that's how their work schedule is, then I'm more than happy to accommodate them.
Yeah, so most of the time, if you have a new consult, then do you usually admit them and then do a workup?
Not necessarily. I like to have the ability to do that, but a lot of them come already worked up from either their primary vet or from one of the bigger referral hospitals in the area from the surgeons.
So who does all the invoicing and all the admin side of things? Is that on your shoulders, or have you got someone to help you with that?
I did hire an outside accounting group, which I am very glad that I did. As far as invoicing and pricing comes up, I'm the one that kind of went through and set up all of those prices. But I have a really good receptionist who has 20 years of experience. And as we grow, she'll eventually be kind of come more the office manager. And she's really great for helping me with a lot of those admin tasks that I'm in over my head with. But I still am doing all the ordering and all the payroll because I still like to be the one keeping an eye on the bottom line right now.
Yeah. I think in the beginning we do tend to want to keep control of everything, and then eventually it gets
Hmm.
so busy that you're consulting so much that you just have to let go. It's hard, but eventually you do, and then you're actually so grateful that you don't have to do
Yeah.
anymore because it's
Yes,
the
I
worst
definitely
part
look
about
forward to that point. And we are just like, I feel like just this spring, we're starting to pick up a lot. And yeah, I hope that we're at the part where I can like feel a little more comfortable delegating.
it. Yeah. So what are your biggest challenges every day at the practice?
Right now, my biggest challenge, I think, is just getting my name out there. There's a lot of there's a lot of veterinarians in Boston, so it's hard to stand out as a different practice. The name helps with that a lot. So really just getting my name out there and brand recognition. And then just little things like, you know, having worked ER before, I always worked for a large company. I've had different leadership positions, but I was never the number one in charge. So getting used to that and just learning how to manage people and manage clients and kind of figure out the best way to maintain a productive practice while also keeping everybody happy.
Yeah, it's a lot of juggling of balls and wearing
Hmm.
different hats. And yeah, going from consulting to managing people, I think the managing people is the hardest part of having
It's
your
so
own.
hard.
And
It's
then
so
all
hard
the
just learning how to talk to people and
yeah,
maintain productivity. And, I try not to I want everyone to want to come to work. But then also there's always like you have to kind of create boundaries and it can be tricky.
yeah, you can't be everyone's friend.
Yes, exactly.
So what are the best cases that you like to treat? What are the most rewarding for you?
I think a lot of the neuro cases tend to be really rewarding, especially the dogs with IVDD, because, a lot of them you get walking again and it's super rewarding and it's a miracle to the owners and everybody's so happy. Um, I find that I got a lot of reward out of the degenerative myelopathy cases, which is funny because, we know that we're not going to cure those dogs, but rehab helps them maintain their quality of life so much that everyone's super appreciative of it. And it's nice just to see like the difference from when I was seeing those cases, as a vet student to now and how much longer they're living and how much happier they are. So those I would say are definitely my favorites.
Yeah, those are like ones we can really make a difference in. And I think, one of the things is the pet owners and their response to what you've done
Hmm.
with their pets. Yeah, I mean it's just so amazing, especially those paralyzed dogs, when
I
when you
know. I mean, like you can't not get teary-eyed, like seeing how happy the owners are and
yeah, yeah. And yeah, they'll be your biggest fan
hmm.
forever. So yeah, for me as well, I think I also really, really enjoy the Paradise Dogs. I love
Hmm.
those ones where the vet would refer them and, they'd say, no, we don't think this dog's ever going to walk again. And then you get them to walk again. So
Yeah. And you get
I
such
love
dedicated
always up for a
owners.
challenge. And do you have overnight boarding there? So, I mean, if you've got patients that need to be treated, are they boarded or do you just bring them in each day to do treatments?
Yeah, no overnight boarding. We just don't have the support to staff that. So we'll do specialized daycare for some of the initial post-op cases where, they're here, we're walking them, we're doing their PT, but we're also just, managing their bladder and things like that. But all of them are day cases.
And when do you ever take leave? Are you able to take leave? Have you taken leave? And what's the plan if you do? Who covers all your cases?
I have not really taken leave since we opened. I hope to in the next year or so be able to, and I'll probably work my schedule so I have my one of my technicians is going through their CCRT training right now.
Nice.
So hopefully at that point they'll be able to manage the initial cases and then we'll save the new consults for when I get back. And then acupuncture is a little trickier since I have to be the one to do that, but we would just try to, not schedule any for a week. I think most of my clients have been great where they're understanding where if I have to take an emergency day off or something, they are totally fine with it. So hopefully we will be. And I do always take the week of the 4th of July off because it's summer and it's only really a 2-day week here. So I usually end up taking time off that week just so that I can, go to the beach and spend time with friends and family.
Nice. Yeah, I always used to take between Christmas and New Year off.
Hmm.
Just work flat out before and flat out afterwards. So you
Yeah, exactly. It's
sacrifice
what'll end up
vacation
happening.
before and like the last day you're like working like 12, 13 hours. I'll fit them all in and then see them again like a week and a bit later.
Yeah, get them all good so they can go another week and then see them.
Yeah. Jaclyn, if you could give advice to anyone that is starting off with their brick and mortar practice, what would it be?
I would advise them to just make sure that they take some level of business training before. I did take, the Business of Canine Rehabilitation course through the Canine Rehab Institute. That was really the only business training I had before. Everything else was all just vet med related. And I think that I got a lot out of that class, just if nothing else, for just vocabulary and stuff that you have to know in order to run a business because there's so many other things like insurance and payroll. And there's so much more out of just ordering your supplies and doing your job that I definitely felt like there was a big learning curve starting off.
Yeah, it's actually crazy if you think about it. Like vet school just completely does not prepare you for all of that. And you just become a vet and then you probably work for somebody and you're completely unawares of all the things that's happening behind the scenes.
Hmm.
And you see the things and you think, oh, I can do this. And then you start your own practice and you're like, what? I don't know how to do any of
Yeah,
this.
exactly. I'm like, oh, that's what all those managers were doing in that room that I never went in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, that's good advice. And there are some great courses out there. So CRI has that great course. And I
Hmm.
think they have it 2 or 3 times a year. So that's definitely one that I would recommend too. So thanks for
Hmm.
sharing that. Jaclyn, it's been so lovely chatting to you. Good luck with everything. I will definitely have to get you on in probably a year or two's time to see how things have progressed.
Oh, thank
But
you.
yeah,
Thank
good
you.
luck with everything, and yeah, you're doing great. So just keep on with all the marketing. I actually have a really great download. I don't know if you've seen it, 20 free ways to market your vet rehab
Yes.
practice. Yeah,
I've got all of your stuff. So
have you
thank you.
got
That's
it?
what I was going to say
Okay.
is thank you for taking the time to talk to me and thank you for the online pet health. The whole site itself has been such a major resource, all the business stuff, and then also just all the different topics that you cover. If I ever need a refresher, if I ever see something new, and then the podcast, that's been a great way for me to just, I'm going for a walk and I'm just kind of, going for an idea walk where I listen to your podcast just to think of other things I can be doing.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for your support and lovely chatting to you.
Yeah, lovely chatting with you. Thanks so much. Take care.
Okay, bye. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. I'm here every week talking to vet rehab therapists from all over the world about all things vet rehab. A big thanks to our sponsor, Curacor. Their sponsorship allows us to be able to give this podcast to you for free. So please go and check them out at curacor.org. Don't forget to bookmark the next Vet Rehab Summit. It's on Saturday, the 31st of August, 2024. Come and be a part of the world's largest online veterinary rehabilitation conference created specifically for you, the vet rehabber community. Online Pet Health members get VIP complimentary access to the Vet Rehab Summit. For more information about continuing education for vet rehabbers, you can go to onlinepethealth.com.